Today is week 4 of the 6-week five facial features in 5 minutes series that I'm doing. And today we are doing the ear, which, okay, when I sat down to get started, I was like, ugh, these are all look exactly the same. I'm not too excited about the sexy ear. And then I started drawing them and it was actually really, really fun. So I also wanted to show you this. I actually ended up putting my whole packet into this cool portfolio thingy dingy. So I'll make sure to link that with the other supplies. But yeah, I really enjoyed the ears. So I hope that you do too. And then next week, we will be doing how to draw hairstyles, okay? 5 in 5 minutes. So make sure you grab the packet. Just let me know in the comment section below if you would like this whole 20-page packet so you can go ahead and draw right with me. I'm drawing right in my packet. So super easy, super fun. Let's get started. And we're going. I'm keeping a little timer going, not to rush myself, but because I'm trying as part of this practice to not make everything like be super picky, perfect, and it just helps me move along so I'm not struggling with perfectionism. I'm trying to get away from perfectionism. Just relax and focus on the task at hand and just do some quick studies every day to improve my art practice and my skills. So I'm going to do the shape first, followed by the value, followed by the details. We're doing every week, every facial feature, the same method. So shape is first. Ears, I'm gonna start with this letter C. It's already, I see actually real quick though that it's kind of like a little angle over here. So I'm gonna I usually spend the longest on shape, second longest time on value. Value is like, it would be like the color, but in this case it's black and white, so the value is going to be the grayscale. And then our details go last. So I'm making mine really big for some reason, I don't know. So now, all right, so I did this letter C. Now I'm doing the thickness part here. And I'm trying to do each in about 5 minutes. And so far it's been pretty working. Now we have this weird shape. This is like another C. And then this goes and bonks into that. And then there's like a weird dark area in here. And then there's more weird dark areas like here. Oh, and then here. Ears are one of those things where like you don't even bother trying to understand what the hell you are seeing because you won't get it. Our brains will never understand the ear. There's too much super weird things, too much super weirdness going on for us to get it. So, like I like to say, you don't need to understand what you're drawing, you just need to draw it. So, that's what we're doing. Okay, so there's my shape. It's been 2 minutes, and now I'm ready to, you need a blending stump, a eraser, and some pencils. That's all you need for this. But you do need a blending stump, and if you don't have a blending stump, use a Q-tip. And then some people say, well, if I have a Q-tip, why don't you show it with a Q-tip? But because it's exactly the same as doing it with this. It's literally the same. There's nothing to see. I wouldn't do it any differently. I would take a Q-tip and I would be doing this just like I'm doing it with this. So it's the same. So I'm using, when I want precise blending, I use the tip of my blending stick, stump, whatever the heck this is. Ooh, that's really dark in there. And I'm noticing right away that, oh no, this area is actually really skinny. I made it really fat. I don't care. This is just, it's fine. I feel like as long as it sort of looks the same, we're okay. And I notice from week to week, totally that I get better, especially like by the 5th one, like we're on fire. So the first one is always the worst one. And that, you know, is the whole point of this practice though too, is because we're learning that like, oh yeah, practice is a thing. And you really get better when you do something more. So that's why we're doing 5. And then there's just some shading up here. Ooh, look at that. I didn't even notice there was shading right here. That kind of makes it different. Ears are so weird. And they're such a big is why we're practicing them. But there's a lot of drawing involved with them and shading. There's not too many details unless you're doing like earrings. All right, so that's my first one. 4 minutes, 12 seconds. I never do anything that fast. And then what happens is, so we did the shape first, we did the value second, and then that's when you put down the graphite and then you smush it around with your blending stick. And then the details, which again, we don't really have many details. That would normally be shadows, or I'm sorry, highlights. And if there was earrings, that would be a cool detail, but there's not. So there is the last one there is. So that was a good practice one. Mine doesn't match exactly, but that's okay. The whole point is that practice and fine. So the next time, this one I'll work a little bit harder to make sure I get the actual shape to be a little bit more accurate. I'm gonna scoot it over here so I can see, set my little timer next to me. So again, okay, we have another chance to prove ourselves. Let's go. So we have our little C. Boop. I always make weird sound with that. No, I think I was right the first time. I think I'm trying to make this one kind of to scale. So we have our letter C, kind of goes out like this. That's where it attaches to the head. It's just a weird thought. And then we have this part. This is the thickness of the ear, right? Which comes along here. Just, if you're very systematic with ears, it's not hard. You just take it one weird fold at a time. So that's all right, we're like halfway there. So then we have to kind of find this next fold, which is kind of like here. And then where it's this next fold is kind of like here. And then this is where it's really dark in here. This little tiny eraser I'm using is called the Mono Eraser, and it's made by Tombow. And it's awesome for getting in little nooks and crannies. And then there's this part, and then this part is shaded. And then there's this thickness here, and then a little bit here. So shape is drawn. And now we have to do the value part, and so that's where all the shading comes in. So this is where you grab your blending stump, and sometimes I will just like scribble in some graphite to just get us started. Or if your blending stump is super dirty, that will work awesome too. So we need to kind of represent, we need to use our blending stump in a way that we haven't really used it in any of the other projects, except maybe a little bit on the eye, and that's by using the tip of it to like draw it in very specific regions, you know what I'm saying? Like get this shape here. Oh man, kind of carve back out. There's so much like undulating of the ear folds. It's really weird. Now, my blending stump is actually a little bit too large because these are really tiny folds. So you can switch to a smaller one. They come in all, ooh, that's like scratching. They come in all sizes. Oh, I don't like that one. Whoops. But see, these big guys get really dirty sometimes, and which is good, but then when you're trying to have like a fine shading experience, you can't because it's just too dirty. Ooh, looking good. And then this part gets shaded too. Yeah, the ears are the only time I really use my blending stump to really draw in these weird folds. But I'm just recreating what I see on my paper. So like it's super dark right here. Do you know what I'm saying? So if this is black, this needs to be black. If that's black, that needs to be black. If that's black, that needs to be black, and so on and so forth. And you just try to do your best to kind of like recreate on one side what's on the other. Ooh, and if it's too dark, then you can just take your pencil and lift it off. Boom, done. 357, the ears. which you would think would be the hardest ones to draw, are becoming the easiest ones to draw for me. Is that because I've been practicing every week? Oh, you know, I bet it is actually. That's crazy town. And I think also because there's no like details. It's really just, it's just steps 1 and 2, shape and value, and then you're kind of done. So interesting. The noses were the hardest. Now I'm trying to do this for every project, which is I'm flipping them so you don't get too used to drawing them in the same direction. So let's see how we do on this one. Now this one might be harder because there's less contrast. Now we talked about this a lot in the ears, not the ears, I'm drawing an ear, that's why I said ears. All right, that was the outer shape. Now let's do the, whoa, inner shape. Kind of starts here. We talked a lot about contrast and picking references in the nose lesson because there was one nose of an Asian woman that was, her skin is so light that there's no contrast and it makes drawing really challenging. Right now, so we had this outer fold and then we have the next big one is just this one. Oh, actually it comes like way over here and then down like that. It's weird when they're just like squiggles in space. Oh yeah, and then this one's like this. And then look at that, it's like a letter Y. Whoa. And why does it feel like every ear is totally different? It's strange. When I first looked at these, I felt like they were all the same. I'm like, this is dumb. All these ears are exactly the same, but actually drawing them, I see now that they're not. So what I was saying about the value and about choosing references, that it's much, much, much easier to draw from a reference if there's a high contrast in your photograph that you're working from. So that means lots of lights and lots of shadows. And while you may be thinking, well, doesn't that make it harder? The answer is no, because you really have something concrete that you can draw and represent. So you're like, oh, I have to draw this big shadow, right? I'm leaving or adding in this really, really bright highlight. And if you don't have any shadows or highlights, you just end up having a hard time to knowing what to draw even at all, because there's nothing there. And that makes it more difficult. So, all right, so I'm adding value, which this is really black in here. So I'm gonna make sure that's really dark. So ears are a great study of value because they're just this convoluted mix of highlights and shadows around these really funky organic shapes. So it's kind of fun, actually. I didn't think I was gonna like the ears. I mean, I've drawn ears before. I've done lessons on ears. I've put them in my books, but I don't really just sit down and just whip out a few on my paper. You know, I'm not like, I can't wait to draw ears today. Yes, these words have never really come out of my mouth, but this is actually kind of fun. I think maybe maybe that will come out of my mouth from now on. Yeah, I'm kind of digging this ear stuff. And this is kind of shady. Yeah, I really like drawing ears. Oh my gosh, something I never thought I would say ever in a million years. So weird. I love you, ear. Okay, who's loving the ears? Look, they look so 3D. Okay, my ears are like way better than my nose is. They're better than my lips. My eyes are pretty good, not gonna lie. But I practice eyes regularly, so, oh my gosh, ears. What, and I'm doing them the fastest. I was jabbering and I forgot to stop my clock and it was only 3 minutes. What is happening? I learn something new every day. All right, 2 more, let's go. All right. You got 2 more in you? I know I do. All right, let's go. Gosh, just loving ears so much right now. Who knew? Whoop. Well, there is kind of a little thing right there, isn't there? We have our C. We have our C, friends. We start with the letter C. All right, and then we have our thickness, right? Yes. So our thickness, it's so systematic these years too. That's the thing I think I'm enjoying about them. Zoop. And then and they are all different. So weird. All right, and then where do we go? Then we got to do all this convoluted weird stuff. This is going to be all shading. That's going to be all shading. So the next actual line we're going to draw is like this one, and it comes out here. Whoop. And then there's I feel like I'm looking right into their brain. Kind of am in a freaky way. So that's going to be black. Just go ahead and fill that in. Mine is way bigger than it's supposed to be. So let's just give it a little ear diet. There we go. Knock that back into shape. Yeah, and then this is like this. And then this is all going to be dark. And that's going to be shady too. These are just so fast. All right, so now we just use our blending stump. I'm going to get it nice and dirty from working on this one. And then same thing here. It's like just shadowy in here. And then there's even a shadow like on the outside a little bit. Like here, and like that kind of leads to the head. And then there's even a little bit of shadow here. And then this is also shadow. So that's just smooshing around our graphite all day long until we get the right shapes kind of working. It's just so weird. This is very similar to drawing hands, where while shapes are of utmost importance, obviously, your fingers and everything, there's like mad things happening with shapes there. On ears and fingers and noses, it's like all the shading is what all makes the magic happen. There's kind of like weird indenty things here. So if you can kind of tune into where the shading is, then the rest is like kind of a piece of cake. Now, if you overshade somewhere, like here, there's like a random highlight right there, just erase it back in. So good. Oop. So good. All right. And then behind the ear is pretty much always shaded because like the sun can't penetrate because there's a big giant ear in the way. So boom. We are so awesome. Again, like I'm yabbering my face off and it's still only 4 minutes. So last one, and the last one is the best because it has an earring and she has a weird ear. I feel like hers is like a shape we haven't seen before. Last one of them all. Okay. Again, it's good to flip-flop directions so we get some practice going both ways. This is the weirdest one because it has like a long runway here before it turns. I don't know why I'm making mine so jumbo. Just make this a little smaller. Zoop. And then, why is it still so jumbo? I don't know. I can't make this one normal size. Wow, her ear is really different than the other ones. It kind of like, first of all, let's narrow this down to one line here. So it's like, it does have thickness, but it's thin and not very well differentiated. And then there's like a big block here where nothing happens, which is also weird. Wow, her ear is super weird. And then this comes down like this, and then it, okay. I did not draw that well. So we have this big part to here, and then it kind of comes like this. And then there's like a little whoop, return, and it comes up and then over this way. What is happening? And then, so there's this part which dies into that. This is the weirdest. This ear looks nothing like the other ears. What is going on? And then this is dark. And this is dark. And this is gonna be dark. And this is like jet black. Whatever this is. What is happening? Okay, remember, okay, I try to remind myself. I say it to my students all the time and I can't, I have to, okay, you don't need to understand what you draw, you just need to draw it. But boy, that's hard sometimes. It's a hard pill to swallow when you're like, what is going on? All right, then she's the ear hole. Oh, I need to switch pencils to my mechanical. So then she goes, whoop. And then there's a little ball, and then there's a frink. And then this is gonna be longer because it's a whole earring we have to draw. And I drew her ear ginormous, which means her earring has to be really ginormous. Boink. And then circle, circle, circle. Oh, my circle is terrible. All right, let's go shade the rest of this super weird ear and be done with this. Then there's like, okay, don't ask questions, just do it. But I do have so many actual questions. Then there's some shaded part here. And then this. My husband and I were just watching a show, and I can't remember what the show is now. And it takes place with boxers in it. And their ears are all malformed. And I'm like, what is going on with the ears of these actors? So we Googled it, and there's something called a cauliflower ear, which is basically the boxer's ears get mashed so many times that it like deforms your ear permanently, and it looks like mashed up cauliflower. Disgusting. I'd never heard of or noticed that before, but I was like, it was so bizarre because I was like, why is everyone's ears in the show look super weird? That's just a fun fact about ears. Yeah, I just learned that like a month ago. Yeah, and it's not attractive. So they gave all the actors like fake, cauliflower ears so they would look legit for the movie. And I gotta say, they looked pretty legit. All right, so here's our thing. That's all we have to do. There's a little bit of shading here, I think. And as always, behind the ear, it's dark because that leads to their back of their head. But yeah, this is a weird one. That made me feel like very out of practice. But overall, they're like jumping off the page. How fun is that? Okay, this is my favorite week so far. That was such a surprise, such a surprise. Next week we're doing hair. We are doing hairstyles. So subscribe, grab the practice worksheet, and I will see you here next week. The link to this whole series is right on the front of the PDF, so you can find us all super quick from week to week. And by the way, again, that was less than 5 minutes, FYI. But click the link on the screen to go replay, play the playlist that has all of the videos in it, and I will see you next week.